Asia's cross-border power push faces a financing test as ADB mobilizes $50 billion by 2035, challenging governments to make grids bankable. Ryan Hassan of the NGO Forum on Asian Development Bank joins us to expound on this. So Ryan, glad you could join us. First, can cross-border transmission in Asia actually become bankable enough for private capital?
Well, that's a tricky one. The quick answer is yes, but not simply because ADB put $50 billion on the table. A transmission line becomes bankable when there is predictable revenue streams and somebody credible is contractually responsible when that revenue stream fails. One of the tricky things about this is project bankability does not necessarily mean that costs and risks are going to remain only with the private sector. A lot of it is pushed into the public domain. We're not talking about political declarations. We're talking about contracts, and that's how private capital will be, I guess, attracted. There are a few examples, but for the sake of time, I think it's important to highlight the fact that transferring all the difficult risks onto the government and public utilities for transfer is not a wise idea. The private sector has to carry some risk as well.
What would you say is the single biggest hurdle standing in the way of financing regional grids, or are we looking at multiple ones?
The biggest hurdle is actually the regulatory and contractual certainty across the borders. Essentially, agreement over who has the right to use the grid, who gets paid, how much will they get paid, and who carries the risk when the electricity does not flow as expected has to be answered. Money is not actually the first order problem. We've seen the ADB commit $50 billion till 2035, but the PAGI itself demonstrates that substantial development capital, while it can be mobilized, does not address the regulatory harmonization and institutional readiness from the countries which are going to export, from the countries which are going to distribute, and from the countries which are going to receive. So at the end of the day, I think the quick answer would be the regulatory and contractual framework has to be put into place.
So given this, how should governments and utilities split the costs and benefits of shared power lines?
Well, simply the guiding principle should be that the beneficiary of the power grid should pay and not simply the host countries. And geography alone is not the basis for allocating billions of dollars of infrastructure costs. Very quickly, I guess we can identify 5 specific elements to this. Project-specific connection costs. A generator or exporter should normally carry the cost of the infrastructure needed primarily to connect its project to the regional network. There are regional backbone costs, where a line improves reliability, reduces congestion, or enables multiple countries to trade. Capital costs should be allocated according to measurable benefits to participating systems, not automatically according to how many kilometers of cable happen to sit inside a particular country. Then, of course, are the countries which are wheeling or distributing the power across different countries. They are going to face transmission losses, and they should also be compensated for the service they're providing between the producing country and the receiving country. And lastly, communities and environment costs must be internalized. As NGO Forum on ADB, we care that these big macro-scale grid projects do not acquire land, forcing people to be displaced. They provide livelihood restoration for communities which are going to be impacted, and the environment and biodiversity should be protected all across the grid.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, Ryan. Looking forward to having you back on the program.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be with you.
Once again, that was Ryan Hassan, Executive Director of the NGO Forum on Asian Development Bank. For more news, visit asian-power.com.